Hi, my name is Kristen Nisaraldo, and this is a free independent restaurant workshop brought to you by the Friday Guide, my company. We're trying to get our arms around the situation in the wake of COVID-19, and we have a couple of focuses in this series: money, confidence, menu, and community. This particular recording deals with money. So let's get started. My name, as I said, is Kristen Nisaraldo. I have been working with independent bars and restaurants for over 20 years. I do all the stuff, including books, systems, and solutions for food and beverage. And my favorite is the independent community. I just love them. It's how I actually learned bookkeeping and finances, was by working on the ground with all the renegades out there starting their own things and being creative. So I really, really, really hope that this series helps you out, because this is a mess. We are in a mess, and we all need to stick together, right? So here's my little bit of wisdom, and hopefully it helps. My approach to everything with regard to finances and systems for food and beverage, particularly independence, is to make things as simple as possible without sacrificing the particular taste that either that owner, that business, that particular restaurant has. So what is the thing that makes them tick? What is the thing that is easiest for them? Always keeping that in mind and respecting that, and from there making things as simple as possible. So I would be remiss if I did not say before we started a big thanks to Melio. Melio reached out to me when they heard I was doing this webinar to offer to be an ally, and I just cannot thank them enough. I just want to go through 2 slides really quickly to introduce you to Melio, because I think especially in the coming days it could be very, very valuable to restaurants and bars. Melio is basically a way to make payments, and it's super easy to do business-to-business payments. First, you add your bill. You pay your bill via ACH, debit card, credit card, and then your vendor gets a check. Sounds simple, right? Here's the bonus. You can pay with a credit card to hold on to cash longer. In other words, you can pay a vendor that doesn't take credit cards with a credit card. So they will get a check, but you'll still be able to use your credit card. This is great for restaurants because you can better control your payments and get better terms with vendors that may not be so quick to hand out terms in the coming days, let alone terms with credit card payments. So it is going to be a fantastic tool to recapture some extended terms or even your initial terms in the coming weeks and months as we all struggle to kind of make our way cash-wise. Please support Melio by visiting meliopayments.com. They can give you more information on how this works. The fees are extremely reasonable, and there's no fee to start. You just pay fees based on what you actually use. So thank you so much to Melio for being an ally to the independent restaurant and bar community, and hopefully you guys will find them as much of an asset as I think they will be. So let's get started with 5 numbers you need for crisis. This is real. Critical calculations for food and beverage. I know that most of you out there are going 1,000 different directions at once. I am not giving you this list because this is necessarily something you don't know. I'm giving you this list because sometimes in our moments where we're trying to do 1,000 things at once and solve 1,000 problems at once, it's nice to have someone on the outside just say, start here, do this first, and give you a little roadmap to do so. So here we go. First of all, everyone out there, as of today, needs to know what their available cash is. Now, when I say available cash, I do not mean the amount of cash or access to cash that you have, like through a credit card or a line of credit. What I mean is, what is the cash you have in the bank today? What is available to you today in your banks. So bank balances, that's number one. Then what could hit your bank any day but hasn't yet? In other words, are there some paychecks that haven't cleared yet? Are there some vendor payments that haven't cleared yet? Is there a credit card fee that's going to be coming down the pike in a couple of days? Are there recurring payments that are on automatic payment that are set to pay out and there's no way to stop them? You have to take those into consideration too, because basically you could wake up tomorrow and all those things could go through. In addition, what are the uncleared deposits that you might not have yet? For instance, are your sales from 2 days ago actually deposited into the bank yet? Do you have money sitting in the safe? Do you have customer payments, like maybe through a third-party vendor that haven't been given to you yet? Like, let's say maybe you're already doing to-go and you're owed some money by Grubhub or something. What are those payments that you are 100% going to receive in the next few days? What I don't want to, I say 100% for a very specific reason. What I don't want you to include in this number is something like, well, so-and-so said they were going to pay me on Friday. That's fantastic. I hope that so-and-so does pay you on Friday, but I don't want to assume that they will. I want to know exactly what is going to happen, what is already in the process of happening. The point is that your available cash number is the number that your bank would be tomorrow if everything that was already in process to happen happened. How much cash would you have in the bank? We do not want to count money you do not yet own. That's the point. And the reason for getting this number is not to feel bad. It's not to say that you don't have any other access to any cash and you can't take any other cash into consideration. No, it's a starting point. We want to make sure this starting point is different than all the maybes. All the maybes are very important, but we need to know what the definitelys are first. So that's available cash. Number two, what's your enhanced occupancy? Now, this is kind of a weird thing. Occupancy costs are basically what it costs you to be in the world at a certain location, so your rents and all that stuff. And I actually include those kinds of expenses here under physical. Rents, parking rents, maybe pest control, property tax, all that good stuff. Utilities like gas, electric, trash, that kind of thing. And then virtual, what's your virtual occupancy? This one is not usually included in occupancy, but I'm including it here because the number we're trying to get at is the number that you would have to pay if you were closed. So if you were to close for 6 months or 3 months, what would you have to continue to pay in order to pick back up 3 months or 6 months from now? You'd still want to have your website. You'd still want to have the same location. You want your utilities to be on. You wouldn't want to be in Dutch with those people. Right? So what does your presence online cost you? Is there a website fee? Is there, are there fees to remain connected to your licenses, your beer and wine license? That kind of thing. It's your registration as a business, right? Even the state taxes, the corporation fee. All those things. It's not your physical presence, it's a virtual presence of your business being a business in the world. All of these things together, in my opinion, create enhanced occupancy, and it's a number we're going to need so that we know basically what your burn rate is. If you are closed, how much does it cost you to be closed? Number three, what do you owe for your employees? Even if you're closing for a time, they're going to need last paychecks. Even if you're not closing, if you're doing to go and take out only, and maybe it's going to be run by managers and not hourly employees, those people that you may be laid off, they still need their final paychecks. Do you owe anyone money in terms of, did an employee pick up, let's say, bakery items on their way in once? Or maybe you were supposed to reimburse people for their uniform purchases, things like that. What do you owe out to those employees? In addition, what have you withheld from their paychecks? What are the withholdings? Payroll taxes. Maybe you withdraw for insurances, like AFLAC or even their medical insurance. And then on the topic of insurance, how much of the employee's insurance do you pay, if any? What are the things that you're paying out that relates to your employees? Maybe there's an HR fee. That's employee related. Are there any outstanding advances for your employees? I'm guessing if you're an independent restaurant, there probably is a 50% chance that there are. Why? Whether or not you're going to make that be paid back with their last paycheck is not what putting that number here is about. What we want to know is who owes and how much do they owe. We just want to know the balances so that we can get a clear idea of what we're actually owed and what we actually owe out for employees. And then in addition, I want you to list all the benefits you're giving employees and the cost of those benefits that may not fall under these other categories. So we're getting an idea of what we owe for employees. Whether we're going to continue all those things or capitalize on all those things or collect on all those things is a different story. But we want to know what we actually have going on now so we can make good choices about what to cut, what to downsize, what to keep doing, what to forgive. Speaking on the topic of forgiveness, I specifically put what do you owe for employees rather than what do you owe to employees. Because I feel like independent restaurants especially, and independent bars especially, really do operate like a family. And a lot of times our loyalties and the amounts that we feel we owe to our family, our workplace family, can be very high. I know it's part of the stress that a lot of restaurant and bar owners are feeling now. They're gutted that they're having to lay people off. They know that switching to go and pick up might be okay for them, but it doesn't do anything for their tipped employees. And so they are trying to do all they can and support all they can. This list is not about that. And this list doesn't preclude you from still making those choices. What this list is about is figuring out the money so you know what kinds of choices you're in a position to make. You may find you actually have more options than you thought, but getting a handle on all these expenses now allows you to make real, lasting, priority choices that are aligned with the kind of business you want to be and the relationships that you value. Speaking of that, it's not just employees that many of us feel loyalties to. We also have customers and vendors that are like family. And so figuring out our outstanding balances with both vendors and customers is critical to know what we can promise them to do, what we might be able to negotiate, but we have to know those numbers. In addition, finding out the outstanding balance on sales, what we might still be owed in terms of sales, but also what our sales have typically been over the last week or so we can get a good handle on how much the business may have taken a hit, and then communicate those numbers to insurance providers, government agencies that might be extending financial support, nonprofits, all of that stuff. In addition, we have liabilities. We have things that we've been collecting on behalf of the government that we need to pay to the government, like for all states except for I think 4, sales tax, and certainly payroll taxes and all those things. Knowing those balances that you are legally obligated to pay is really important. Now, it could be that the government gives us extended terms for those kinds of things, maybe says you can pay late without penalty up to 6 months, whatever it is. That is fantastic, and that's a tool you can use once you know all your balances. But in the meantime, we got to know the balances first. So listing out these things can be tough. I know, it's a lot of information. Here's the part where if you have a bookkeeper or an accountant that's working with you more often than once a year, it can be invaluable because you probably have access to all this stuff straight away. If you don't have a bookkeeper or an accountant that you're working with regularly, first of all, I am very, very sorry because they would be very valuable now. But what's past is past. It doesn't matter. Right now, there are ways that you can go about getting this information. And I'm going to give you some information at the end of the webinar for how to do that, how to get some help with that for no cost. So, but these 4 categories, very important. Finally, let's talk about inventory. I know that a lot of, especially smaller restaurants that have really, really fast turnover on food don't bother with inventory, except for maybe once a year, once a quarter. I'm just going to put it out there. Everyone in the middle of this crisis, every independent bar and restaurant needs to do inventory today. The reason I say that is because it's going to allow you to put a stamp in time about what your business was worth, what your assets were. You know, in the restaurant and bar community, we use a lot of perishable things. And if you're forced to close, I mean, bars, you have beer sitting in kegs, like just disintegrating, and you may do takeout, you know, independent restaurants out there might do takeout, but they're not necessarily doing a lot of salads for takeout. Their lettuce might be wilting, and that's assuming you get customers for those kinds of fresh products rather than more travel-friendly products. So it really is important to lock down where you stand. And that's why I'm encouraging you, when you take this inventory, to add a couple of categories to your inventory for each item. Please note down if it's perishable. If it's returnable, by that I mean, is it open? Is it a grocery? First of all, is it not perishable? Second of all, is it a grocery item that's not open? And third of all, did it come in a case where the individual items might not be open, but the case is open? If you've got, basically, if you've got a product that isn't immediately perishable and isn't a meat product and is still like in its original cases, like a case of beer or 5 boxes, like a pallet of rice or something, don't open it. Just for right now, unless you have to sell it, don't open it. Just count it, record it. Also, is it usable? Is what you're looking at going to be something that you can actually use in the way that you're thinking of going in terms of a to-go menu, if you are going to be operating at all? And finally, is that inventory item something that was a loan to you? In other words, do you have chemicals in-house that are really belong to the machine that you're leasing, and they just charge you by how much you use? That kind of thing. In fact, the machine you're leasing, that's loaned. So just noting down how much money you have sitting around and how many obligations you have sitting around. It's a different kind of inventory, so I want to be sure to put that down here because it can be great for insurance purposes. Again, just sort of locking down how much money you may have lost. It's really important. So I kind of wish I would have added another slide here, to be honest, because I didn't really say what you should do with all these, what all these are for. We know it's to get a sense of where you are. Basically, if you look back at all these slides, it's all about what are your assets and what are your liabilities. What are the things, the tools you have, and what are the things that you need those tools to do? But the point of doing this now is not to just list out like a balance sheet, like, oh, I owe more than I have, so I guess I'm broke. No, it's about getting a sense of the whole picture. And once you do, you might see a path forward. Oh, I can trade this rice for the person that's still doing to go, but maybe they'll give me some to go boxes because they've been doing to go for years and I haven't. We're in that place where a lot of you guys are going to be doing things in a way that's not traditional. The bonus is that you're independent restaurant and bar owners. You've been ad hocing it and been scrappy like people for years. This is going to be an experience probably not unlike when you first started your business. And I hope that most of you look back on that time fondly. I don't know if this will be as fondly remembered, but I know if you're in business now, you have the stuff to weather this because you opened your business in the first place. Not without a big corporate, push behind you. Just you, just your business, independent. You guys can make it. You can make it. You just need to be honest about where you are so that you can see the way forward. These 5 numbers will give you an excellent view of where you are, as well as what tools you have and how they can be leveraged to get you to where you need to be. Going forward, I will be offering some workshop type environments where people who don't have access to bookkeepers and accountants on a regular basis can come, ask questions, and get a little bit of help and just guidance and cheering along for getting to these 5 numbers. It's going to make you feel empowered to feel like you have a handle on that part of your business. I hope this webinar has been valuable. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat below and I will get to them as soon as possible. I will also put links for some tools that I have that can get you started on these, as well as information on my website, thefridayguide.com, about upcoming workshops and study halls and webinars. Okay, everyone take care out there, and yeah, just take care of yourself, stay yourself, be strong, and let's all together save F&B. All right, take care.